Could Deshaun Watson's relationship with the Texans be officially strained? Last week, we found out Watson was bothered by the team not considering or consulting him in the process of hiring former Pats executive Nick Caserio for the Texans GM position. Meanwhile, over the weekend, our Chris Mortensen tweeting this. You can see it right there. Sources say Watson could play hardball with the Texans about a trade. His new $156 million contract includes a no-trade clause, but informed speculation from a source is that he would consider the Miami Dolphins, in which Tua and additional compensation goes to Houston. The plot thickens, Max Kellerman. Talk to me. How should Deshaun feel about Houston now?
Deshaun Watson should want out of Houston. He should want out of Houston. The way they've treated him is like, and I know it's the NFL and not the NBA, but for some players, you have, I mentioned this last week, think about the most the most valuable trading commodities in the NFL. Who has the most value? Patrick Mahomes, because Aaron Rodgers is 37. Russell Wilson's 32. Patrick Mahomes is number one. He's better than those guys anyway, I believe. He's number one. Who's number two? I think it's Deshaun Watson. I think other than Mahomes, he is the most valuable in that way piece in the NFL. You don't consult him. He finds out through the media that his receiver, who's one of the best ever, at least one of the best sets of hands ever, and his boy gets traded. Not only do you not consult him about the GM, but you pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to a firm that recommends a GM, and instead you turn that guy down and make a last-second decision, and Deshaun Watson's totally out of the loop? No, to hell with that. I mean, really, other than Watson, you have Josh Allen, who's also great and young, and I would say Justin Herbert, who's, by the way, still on his rookie deal, and by next year might be pushing those guys. He's so talented. But when you're maybe the second most valuable commodity in the game, and they treat you that way, get out of there.
Houston, we have a problem. And I will say this, and I say this in all seriousness, Ryan, especially to you, I say this on this show right now because it's something important that happened. They say that Deshaun Watson is happy for a lot of the reasons that Max just articulated. But in the end, what it comes down to is that Deshaun Watson has a problem with this organization and the direction that it's going in. The fact that Miami is a desired destination. They have an African-American GM in Chris Greer and an African-American coach in Brian Flores. They're the only team in the National Football League who has that, along with Stephen Ross and the things that he's done from a philanthropic standpoint in the community as it pertains to the African-American community. Think about that as the owner for the Miami Dolphins. Think about that. It's one thing to want out of Houston because of their clear ineptitude. It's one thing to want out of Houston because Bill O'Brien traded away your boy DeAndre Hopkins. It's another thing entirely in the aftermath of social justice issues and what have you, with Deshaun Watson having spoken out against those things, with stories leaking that he doesn't believe the organization gets it. And he is a top quarterback in the National Football League who happens to be black, who you just invested $156 million to. And he believes that you, as an organization, are desensitized or desensitive or not sensitive enough to the issues that are percolating in our society. And he's using your actions as an organization, who you've hired, who you've fired, who you've let go, who you've kept on board, et cetera, et cetera. These are the things that he's saying. And then when you point out where he wants to go to, you see that he's a conscientious observer, not just an elite football player. When you combine that with the fact that the great J.J. Watt, and I'm talking about the greatness of J.J. Watt, the player, and the greatness of J.J. Watt, the person. We know what kind of person he's proven to be. It's well documented. He probably wants out too. If you're the Houston Texans organization, you need to understand that the nation, the football world, is looking at you right now as an organization, and they've got some serious question marks about who you are. This is not Deshaun Watson just, I'm just not happy because we had a 4-12 season. That's not what he's done. They've lost before. They've missed the playoffs before. This is not just about that. This is something extra. And it tells me that there's something going on in Houston where essentially they've got the mentality shut up and dribble. Not literally, of course, because this is football. But in other words, you're an athlete. We pay you to play, shut up, play, and leave the decision-making to us. That's what everything points to right now when it comes to the Houston Texans, which means that if Deshaun Watson keeps making noise about this, there's a whole bunch of people that ain't going to want to have anything to do with that organization.
Stephen A., I think it's so important that you pointed those things out about Miami, right? Because the first thing anybody hears when they hear he wants to go to Miami is what? Oh, it's Miami. Why would
South
anyone
Beach
want to go play there, right? And then you think about Greer as the GM. You think about Flores as the head coach and Deshaun Watson understanding these things. You think about where the Houston Texans as a family and as an organization, as an ownership group, stood during the social injustice, not allowing the inmates to run the prison. And now I think people don't necessarily understand the situation between Cal McNair and Deshaun Watson. So here's the situation. Deshaun Watson is not saying that you should have treated him any differently. Deshaun Watson is saying you should have kept your word. Right? Because people are going to throw it back. Well, he's just a football player. He's just a quarterback. They don't owe him anything. No, they don't. But they do owe him honesty. And if you go to the man and say you are going to be involved in this process, we will keep you up to date with the things that are happening, then that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be a man of integrity. You're supposed to be a man of your word if you're Cal McNair.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.